Swami Ramdas was the very picture of grandfatherly benignity. The only unusual thing about him were his ears, with lobes of extraordinary length. Constituting himself the spokesman, Satyapriya gave a full and frank account of our year together in the haunted ashram. Throughout the recital, Ramdas listened attentively, but when Satyapriya came to his outbursts of anger, as well as the austerities we'd practiced, particularly his own prolonged fasts, Ramdas's face took on an expression of the deepest concern, as if unable to credit his ears. Living with my warm-hearted but irascible companion had at times been a nightmare. Ever since he'd given up on the industrial school and other projects, his constitutional unreasonableness and irritability had grown steadily worse. I knew from bitter experience that if Satyapriya thought people were paying greater attention to my opinion than to his, there would be trouble. I learned this could be avoided only if I said little and let Satyapriya occupy the centre stage. Talking in the semi-darkness of the veranda one night, we happened to find ourselves disagreeing over something. Knowing how impatient of contradiction Satyapriya was, I at once saw the danger and stopped pressing my point. But it was too late. Despite all my efforts to pacify him, he suddenly struck me a tremendous blow in the face with his fist. By the time our manager had come running, Satyapriya was dabbing my bleeding cheek and rocking me in his arms in an agony of remorse. From the minute Satyapriya had started telling the story of our life together, it had seemed that we were making confession of all our weaknesses and imperfections, that this confession was being received by Ramdas, like the ocean receiving into its pure depths the sullied waters of a river. The one thing needful was wholehearted love and devotion towards the spiritual ideal. From that, everything would follow. One morning, we found Ramdas reading The Light of Asia. As soon as he saw us, he exclaimed, "Your mantra is Om Mani Padme Hum." With this mantra of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, I was well content, especially as Ramdas had never been known to initiate anyone into anything other than the Rama mantra. Ramdas was militant against caste, and would not allow any discrimination on account of caste within the ashram precincts. The majority of the 15 or 20 devotees then staying at the ashram were very ordinary people, but the atmosphere of genuine friendliness and devotion that pervaded the place far exceeded anything that I had yet experienced. Ramdas often spoke of the saints and sages whose blessings he had sought at the outset of his quest. The one for whom he felt the greatest veneration was Ramana Maharshi. Towards the end of our stay, he urged us to see the Maharishi for ourselves. Before setting off, we asked if Ramdas could inscribe our new notebooks. Teaching us a profound spiritual lesson, in mine he wrote, "Love Dharma, for Dharma is truth," and in Satyapriya's, "Love truth, for truth is Dharma." Having spoken at length on the need for brotherly love between us, Ramdas made clear his blessings were always with us. Since we had no money, we had decided to walk all the way to Tiruvannamalai. However, when we went to pay our last respects to Ramdas, he handed us 2 third-class railway tickets and told us firmly that we were to go by train. Behind the ashram rose the twin peaks of Arunachala, the Hill of Light, sacred throughout the Tamil country, the mere name of which had magically drawn the 17-year-old Ramana to the spot some 50 years earlier. It was larger and run on very different lines to Anand Ashram. As wandering ascetics, Satyapriya and I were relegated to the non-Brahmin side of the partitioned dining hall. Darshan at the ashram was truly a memorable experience. Sitting there with Satyapriya, I felt a stream of purity flow over me, until body, mind, thought and emotion had all been washed away, and there remained nothing but a great shining peace. With the Maharishi's blessing, we established ourselves in Virupaksha cave, named for the saint who had lived 500 or 600 years ago and had been buried there. Much of the space was occupied by Virupaksha's tomb, on which we slept at night. Chanting our new Avalokiteshvara mantra, both to ourselves and together, to a tune of Satyapriya's devising, we left the cave only every 2 or 3 days. Most of our time was devoted to meditation. One night I found myself, as it were, out of the body, and in the presence of Amitabha. The colour of the Buddha was a deep, rich, luminous red, like that of rubies, yet soft and glowing, like the light of the setting sun, and more wonderful than any earthly red. I was now convinced our 2 years' apprenticeship in the holy life had come to an end, and we would retrace our steps to North India and seek formal ordination there.